originally from Brazil. I've been in Ireland for nearly 5 years. Actually, it's going to be 5 years now in February. Can't believe that's been that long. I've over 13 years of experience in ESL, so I started quite young at 18 and haven't stopped ever since. I have worked for International House Dublin for over 2 years now, and I was the director of studies for International House in Cork. So International House, we have our Dublin center that runs like year round, and we also have the summer course. We have two centers. So we have one summer center here in Dublin in Wesley College, and another summer center in Cork in University College Cork, yeah, UCC. So I was the director of studies for the summer center in Cork for 2 years, so 2021 and 2022 and 2023. Yeah, so I think the main thing is first is to understand the differences between a regular ESL course and a summer course in Ireland. So Ireland at the moment is a very big market for ESL. So, and we have two different, it's a bit different from other countries. So for example, I have experience in Brazil as well, and I can tell the differences even when you have adult learners. Right? Because in most countries, students, they have a short course. They study 1 or 2 hours every couple of days, like twice a week, let's say. Whereas in Ireland, our market is aimed at international students who are here on a long-term visa, right? Or sometimes short-term visas. And we aim, like most of our students are usually 18 years or older, right? So they are adults or young adults. And that differs from most of the other countries, right? Because there you have like a more mixed, so you have young learners and you have adult learners. And that's why here in other English-speaking countries, we have also the junior summer centers, right? So they differ in terms of aim. So a regular ESL course here would aim at international students and young adults or adults, and the junior center, they would be focused on young learners who can spend usually from 1 week to 4 weeks abroad. And the difference is also that since they're like in a junior center, they are, like it used to be called like a summer camp. So they have they have both English lessons, like English language lessons, but also extracurricular activities in the afternoon or in the morning to help the students immerse themselves in the culture and the language. So it's, they have different activities that we normally don't have in an adult learning class. So in International House, our program, it caters for students aged between 11 and 17 years old. So we don't have like very young learners. We don't have children, basically. And we have, our course has all the levels, basically from elementary to C1, so to advanced, so from the CFR, right, the Common European Framework. We aim at having mixed nationality classes. So you might have students there from France, Spain, Italy, Russia, Argentina, China. So they might be in the same classroom. We have a 4-week program. So as I said, they stay here for, some students might stay for 1 week. Most of them usually stay for 2 weeks, but it happens in July, for example, in International House. So it's 1 to 4 weeks. And besides their English classes, they also have extracurricular activities such as sports, arts and crafts. They have a disco. They have, many different activities throughout the week. And on the weekends, they have excursions. So, for example, in Cork, On Saturdays, they would go to Blarney Castle, they could go to Killarney, they would go to Cove. They would have a lesson, like they would have a full day excursion at the weekend as well to help them get to know more about the culture, about the place. So it's not focused necessarily on the English classes, right? It's focused on giving them an immersive experience in Ireland. So we used to have a course program prior to this one that I designed, which was really good. But despite the old program also focusing on a more communicative approach, it felt a bit dated because what happens, especially with teenage materials for ESL, is that they date very quickly because sometimes the course books, they might be dealing with things that, you know, technology, like it changes very rapidly and teenagers are using different, uh, apps, let's say. So like you might have a question on in a course book about Facebook, but like teenagers don't use Facebook anymore. So despite the main core of the course books or our course program being the communicative approach to help the students develop their speaking and all the other four skills, we felt like it needed an update. And we also wish to integrate and incorporate more recent approaches and skills that we believe to be fundamental for students, such as the so-called 21st century skills, such as creativity, collaboration, leadership, um, critical thinking. So we thought it was very important for us to actually incorporate those in our program. So as I said, this is the main factor that we wanted to include in our program. So the 21st century skills, because we think that it's essential nowadays for students to foster those skills and to develop them further, because we used to work with them in the classroom, but we didn't have a name for them. So now we have a more clear idea of how to deal with them. We also focused on the take home value, which means when the student goes back to their country, to their home, like what are they taking with them from the course, from their lessons? So it's very important. The learner preferences. So we know that students, they have a preferred, a favorite, like they learn differently. So you have students that are more visual, they learn more with visual lessons. Some of them are more kinesthetic, so they need to move to learn better. Some students, they need like a song. Some students, so every student has their what we call the learner preference. So we also needed to incorporate lessons and activities that would be good for different types of learners. A need for challenge as well, because we feel like as teachers, we always need to challenge the students, because if the student is bored in class, they're probably not learning because they're not feeling challenged. They're not feeling like they're learning something new. So you also need to challenge them and present them with things that they don't know or they don't discuss much. So they need to feel challenged to learn better, which connects it to the motivation theory, which means the more motivated the student is, the better they learn. So, and that goes not only for English classes. If we remember any of our classes in secondary school or primary school, we always learn better when we feel motivated, when there's something that we want to learn better. And also a multicultural environment for learning, even though they are in Ireland and our program incorporates, as we are going to see later, a lot of Irish culture. We also aimed at having a multicultural environment because, Ireland is multicultural nowadays, and the students, they need to be aware of different accents. They need to be aware of different ways of speaking English. So it's not only Irish English, American English. There is Spanish, Brazilian, Italian, Chinese, you know, there are different Englishes, let's say, around the world, and they need to be exposed to those. This is a quote that I found that I think it's very interesting, and it kind of ties up to what I was saying. So, only what you can always carry with you. No languages, no countries, no people. Let your memory be your travel bag. So when the students come here, they are getting to know the language a bit more. They are getting to know the country a bit more. They're getting to know Irish people and the people they encounter here a bit more. So when they get home after that experience, what are they going to bring home? What memories are they going to, remember? What are they going to remember when they come back to their countries? So, taking all of that into consideration, we found more fitting and more productive to divide our new program in thematic weeks, because then it would be easier for us to find activities that would be meaningful to the students, and that, you know, um, with different topics. Because what we found in our old program as well was that it was not very cohesive. So in the first lesson, the students were talking about food, but the second they were talking about sports, or like, so it was difficult for the teachers as well to kind of like, transition from one lesson into another. So we found that having a theme, like an overall theme throughout the week, would be more productive, both for students and for teachers. So we divided our program in these 4 weeks. So in week 1, students would talk about image, week 2, food, week 3, travel, and week 4, relationships. And when I say these weekly themes, I mean from all levels. So from elementary to advanced, they were all studying the same themes. Of course, then the activities would be according to the level and according to what's expected of that level. So as I said, we chose topics that would be useful to students while in Ireland. So for example, image, the students would be talking about clothes. So if they go to a shop and they want to buy clothes, they need to know how to ask, like to ask for a price or ask to try something on. When they go to a restaurant or like fast food, they need to know how to order. If they need to ask for directions when they're traveling. So we thought of like themes that would be useful to them. So they learn, as I said, functional language or vocabulary related to that topic. So shopping for clothes, ordering at a restaurant. But not only that, we also included lessons that would tackle issues to foster their critical thinking. So for example, in image, they would talk about fast fashion. So what's the impact of fast fashion in the world? Food waste, social inequality, stereotypes. So we have lessons there, or mini projects, let's say, that would help the students um, develop their skills, but also that are tied to the main theme, and also that would, focus on the skills that they need to learn. Um, And we also believe that having a task makes students more motivated, and it challenges students a lot more. So that's why task-based learning is very important. So for that reason, we decided to create a final weekly project. So every week, the students would have to deliver a project. It could either be a whole class project or small groups. Um, so all the lessons, they were tailored, they were prepared to help the students deliver that project. So um, we also want to challenge and motivate the students, but also put them in the forefront of their learning experience. So these projects, they were like most of them, they were not teacher centered at all. So the student was at the forefront of their learning. So they were deciding, they had the autonomy, they were going to decide how they're going to do it. How the teacher is there just to facilitate, to mediate the whole process. Of course, we gave the teachers general guidelines, but it's more focused on the students. So they have to collaborate, they have to use their creativity to and the themes and all the target language they learned throughout the week to deliver that project. So what are the projects that we created? So 1 second, sorry. Um, so for week 1, since the topic was image, the students had to come up with a fashion show. For week 2, a cooking show. For week 3, a TikTok video, or I don't know if you are aware, but like those Instagram or TikTok pages like Love in Dublin, the ones that show the tourist attractions, the places that people should go to, a restaurant, or for food, or to different cultural activities. And for week 4, the yearbook. So I have here some images of how the students created. So as here, I was with them. So for that week, I was teaching these groups. They were intermediate and upper intermediate. And it was very, very fun for them and for me as well, because they had to they brought stuff, like we had some stuff there. Um, you know, they created their outfits. They had they were very, like, they participated a lot. There was even some the students were a bit shyer. There were a couple of students that were very shy in the classroom, so they wouldn't integrate much with the rest of the group, but doing the activity just made them shine, because sometimes the students, they are not very participative in like a speaking activity, but when they have to be creative, that's when they shine. Or sometimes the students, like, they're good at both. That some of them have more confidence, so like it's good for everyone. So everyone has a chance to collaborate and to make something that they're going to enjoy, they're going to like that, and they're going to remember that. um uh Susan, yeah, so the fashion show for this week, so these are from Cork. So we had, because we had low numbers at the beginning. So we had low numbers for weeks 1 and 2. We had only 2 groups. We had an upper int and an intermediate group. So we actually, me and the other teacher who were with them, we made them present to each other. So like we made the intermediate group presented to the upper intermediate group and vice versa. So it was very fun. I think like here in Wesley, they also did something similar. So if you have a venue, if you have a room big enough for that, I definitely think it's like a nice idea to present it to everyone, because it makes them very proud of their achievement. The guys here, these ones to the left, right, so whichever direction you're seeing the screen right now. But the 2 guys here, the one wearing the tutu, they won the show. So like they were, because we had like the critics as well. So it was not only about creating the clothes. We had like students from each room, like from each classroom, and they had to critique. They had to say like, "Oh, I liked the way you walked. I like the." So they had to make a whole presentation. For week 2, we had for food, we also had a cooking show. So since I was with them, again, so it depended on the group. So I remember like the intermediate group, it was a bit more controlled, let's say, because they were like younger students normally. And for this one, they were like a bit older. So these are like from the upper intermediate group. And I did like a Master Chef mystery box competition with them. So they had like I gave them I put like very weird, like strange ingredients that are like not strange, but things that wouldn't go together, like marshmallows and jam with tomatoes and ham, and they had to come up with something. Um, and the I think like the nicest thing was actually that they all came up with a story for their dishes, for like the sandwich or the wrap that they created. So the girls here to the right, the one with the marshmallow. They, I don't think they won, but they were like, oh, the sweet things, like they put like banana, peanut butter, marshmallow. So they were like, oh, this is when you're a child, and it's, it's like more fun. You like the color, you like the sweets. And then their sandwich was like ham and cheese, like something very bland, let's say, boring. And they're like, because when you're an adult, like things that get boring, and then it's not fun anymore. um so here are the other ones that they created, like this one here with the jam and the knife. It was like a murder, so the jam was like the blood, and then there was the knife. So they were like, what I liked about this project was that, it was very creative. Like they had to come up with that. So it's not only about the language necessarily, but it's about like the process of creating, and the communication, and the collaboration, and the critical thinking, and the leadership, because there's always somebody who takes the lead. I think it's very interesting for the students and for the teachers as well, because for me, it was like a really nice process as well of, seeing the students engage and seeing the students participate. For week 3, so they had to create a TikTok video and post it to the Padlet. So each group had a Padlet. Just need to going to share the audio in a second. Just remember how to share it.
Morse Cliff is a
Can you hear that? Yeah. Okay.
Morse Cliff is a sea cliff located at the southwestern edge of Buren. It's part of some sea cliffs that run for about 13 kilometers, and the maximum height is of 214 meters. It is a beautiful place where you can observe all the ocean around you. You can also look at the sunset, that is the most beautiful moment of the day. The tourists are 1.5 million per year, and you have to be one of them. Enjoy your visit.
Yeah, so as you see, it was something very simple. They just had to like put some images together, choose a place. It could be somewhere in Cork, somewhere in Ireland, and just talk about it, you know. So again, some of them, I know that some of them, like, they made a whole scene, so it was like a like a play or something like that. So again, it's the teacher just gives the guidelines to the students. This is what you have to do, this is what you have to present, and the students come up with the whole idea. So it's, they are the ones who are going to create something. So just, yeah, so for week 4, I forgot it, they were in my locker here. I forgot I had like the yearbook. So the yearbook was not like a normal yearbook, but they would have to vote for like who's the class clown of the class, who is the, I don't know, the teacher's pet. Like they would see these idioms to describe people, the fashionista, like all of those things, and they would vote for that. And they would like post a picture of themselves and a quote, just like a normal yearbook, basically. And we actually printed them out, all of them, for all the classes. And because when they finished, we did like like a graduation for them, basically, so they would get the certificate. And for those students who were there in week 4, we also gave them the yearbook, which is a great way for them to remember that experience in Ireland, because they have the visual there. So when they get home, they would, they if they keep it like years from now, they can look like, oh, I remember this, I remember that. So it's like a nice way for students to remember their experience here. And they also had the Padlet. So each group had a Padlet, so the teachers could use it in class, basically, for any activities they wanted, like speaking a debate, to post pictures. And the students, they still have access to it. So if they want to, like if they still have the QR code or the link to it, they can all uh, look back. So with the projects, the students, they work with the project. Yeah, so they work with the projects throughout the week. So it's not only when they present it. So they have like 3 moments when they look at the project. So Monday morning, the teacher just says like, oh, this week you have to present a cooking show. So the students just start like, the cogs start working. They have to start brainstorming. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, they have specific moments of the class for them to work on their projects. And these are like specifically designed lessons to help the students be more creative, to brainstorm idea, to collaborate, to communicate. Besides the project, we included lots of authentic materials as well for all levels. Because we think that, course books are great, but students need to be in contact with real language. So, like a video, or even if it's just like a simple thing, for example, for elementary, if it's a menu, it's something real, it's something authentic, it's real life. It's a news article, if it's a text. So these things just make students get in contact with the real language and learn more effectively. And we also included an Irish culture-based lesson according to the weekly theme. So since they're in Ireland, why not learn more about Irish culture? So for example, for food, for the upper levels, there was a lesson about the potato famine. I know, very depressing topic, but it's part of the culture. Festivals in Ireland, Irish mythology, famous people from Ireland. So, and these lessons are also about like projects. They have to research, for example, a mythological creature from Ireland and present it to the class. Or they have a jigsaw reading activity. So one student has part of the text, the other one has another part. They have to ask each other questions to decide, like to fill in the gaps. Yeah. So this is an example of like how the course program was designed for the teachers. So we have a OneDrive basically, so like a drive with all the activities. So all the materials that the teachers needed were there. And if they didn't have any of the materials, they would just talk to me and I would just upload it right away. And it's very visual for teachers as well. So the students can, like the teachers can know what skills we're trying to build or trying to develop throughout those lessons. So like, is it more speaking or is it more reading? So this is, I think, upper intermediate. So let's say, this group isn't like collaborating much for the fashion show, for example. They are not very into it. So I also added like lots of extra activities that the teacher could use in case they have some time. Because, like every group is different. Sometimes, yes, some groups, they're going to do it like beautifully. Some groups are just not interested in that particular challenge. They might be interested in another one. So it would be very, there were a lot of ideas and materials for everyone. So as I said, they would introduce the topic on Monday, work with it on Tuesday. On Thursday, excuse me, um, they would have the first slot, they would have the Irish lesson, the Irish culture lesson, and work with the project. And then on Friday, it was a bit different. So they would present their project. And since they had the excursion every week, one second, connect my charger because my battery is a bit low. Yeah, there you go. Sorry. So as I was saying, on Friday, they would have the project either on the first or the second lesson, and they would also have like kind of a revision lesson, excursion lesson. So since they have an excursion every Saturday or Sunday, the teacher would bring activities to prepare students for that excursion. So to learn more about the place, for example, like research, like you're going to Blarney Castle. What's the story with Blarney Castle? What's the history there? Why is it so important? How can you get to Blarney Castle? So like you can, you could make like a lesson that they on Monday, you could ask them to report that to you. So like there were different activities. This was more up to the teacher to decide how to run the lesson. And revision, of course. And as a teacher, for those here who are teachers, you probably notice like, oh, wow, there's like 500 activities for each lesson. The teachers weren't expected to use all of these materials, of course, because it's not, feasible for like 1 hour and a half. So it was just, oh, I think this activity will cater more for my students. I think they're going to be more interested in this activity. So teachers could choose as well. So what were the main results for us? Compared to the previous program, I think the students were a lot more engaged in the lessons, and they were participating a lot more. I would say that is because they were they were asked to participate. So it's not like sitting there doing the activity. So they were, they were like the main character, let's say, of their learning experience. They were the protagonists for that. Um, there was also positive feedback from the teachers because they said, the program had more cohesion, so the lessons would flow much better. So you wouldn't have those breaks, as I said, like first lesson is food, second lesson is like Irish mythology. Like, what's the connection? There's no connection there. And I, in my side of from like the director of studies as well, it was easier for if students sometimes wanted to change level. I noticed that the students were happier with the content because if you're studying like image in pre-intermediate and you go to intermediate, that class is also looking at the same theme. They're just looking at something more challenging for you. So the students also felt like, in general, I felt like they were happier. They were not as, they wouldn't say, I didn't have many complaints in terms of like, oh, I'm not being challenged. There was actually no complaints at all in Cork, at least for like students saying they were not being challenged. And also students were a lot more autonomous in their learning experience, of course. So the lessons learned for me creating the program, it's possible to see that it's indeed possible to create a program that caters to students' needs when studying abroad short term, because that's what they need. They need something, they don't need a lot of grammar because it's not relevant to them to learn what like all the different uses of present perfect, unless it's necessary for that project, unless it's something that they can apply here. We also learned that task-based projects and lessons that involve meaningful topics to students are more engaging and motivating to them. So when they see the purpose, as I put in the next part, the keyword is purpose. When the students, they see a reason to learn something, they learn better and more effectively. So if they're like, why am I studying like about this? Like, I'm not going to use it tomorrow. But if they say like, okay, I need to use it for the project. I have to like create a fashion, like I need to create my outfit. I have to, describe it, or I need to go to a shop to buy something for project, or like I want something like I want clothes. They're too small. They're too big. How can I use that? So when the students see the purpose, the reason, it's a lot easier for them to remember that as well and to learn more effectively. My next steps then would be, because even successful projects and even projects that we think work well, they can always improve. You can always find ways to make something better. So I would say get more feedback from both the teachers and students, um, to see like what really worked, what didn't work, to rework any lessons that both teachers and the students felt like this is not engaging the students. The material here didn't work very well. So just what other materials can I bring instead? And always like, add more task-based lessons, authentic materials. So for example, now I'm redesigning the whole course program for the adults here as well. So I'm having lots of ideas like, oh, I should have used this in the junior centers. Like, so you can always bring something more to the table, basically. And well, that was the program. So do you guys have any questions for me?
Hi, Jonathan. That was really, really good. Thank you.
Thank
You for going through it. Did you find with maybe a non-traditional program where children have that a bit more autonomy for leading their own learning, did you find it hard to keep them more on track, or was there that freedom to kind of explore where a lesson might take them? I suppose was more of that occurring, and maybe conclusions coming up that were not maybe predicted, I suppose.
Yeah, I would say like it's definitely the latter. When I was, because I had the chance to, test that because I was teaching like for 2 weeks, and I felt like, okay, this material here doesn't work with this class because they want something else, or they needed something else. So I think like it helps. The teacher needs to kind of like gauge that as well, right? So you need a bit of experience with that. But like even from the teachers, they said like, oh, they felt the students were more engaged and they felt the students were more autonomous as well. So even with the teachers, I would say like, you don't necessarily need to use the materials you have there, by all means, like this is like a guide, but if you bring like, it's about food, if you have any materials that are for that level and you think your students are going to like that talk about food, just bring it to class, because I think it's good for both sides. I try to give teachers as many possibilities and as many directions as I could, because sometimes we need those, but they could also experiment because sometimes the students need that.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's see, we have things in the chat. Any more questions?
Hi, Jonathan. How are you and everybody?
Hi. Hello.
How are you? My name is Sarah. I'm doing exactly what you have just did there at the moment. So I'm curriculum planning for a school in Kerry. And I agree with you with regarding putting a team for a week rather than having like sporadic subjects or whatever, like along the way. It makes it much easier for you as a planner, but it also makes it more, I think, the vision and the teacher, it would be easier for them as well. I suppose just what I'm looking at is I love what you said about keeping it updated, because you are looking at young learners as well, which are teenagers, and you need to keep with them. What resources do you have? Like a stockpile of resources? No, I'm working a lot from what I'm planning from is a lot from literally about a stack pile, picking the elementary stack pile of resources and books, pulling from them like one page here, one page there, and then going on, say, I don't know, like doing word wall, say resources from online or whatnot. So I'm just wondering, what kind of stockpile of resources do you use?
Yeah, it was pretty much the same, I would say, because like if you're not following a course book, you have to bring 300 sources basically. So it was very exhausting, let's say, to be honest, because you have, I have even now, like I have like 300 books on my desk, just trying to find like, oh, this activity is nice, that activity works well. So yeah, I use lots of we use some of the old like books, especially for reading, because I think like some reading activities are really nice. We use like lots of Teach This, Lingua House,
Yeah.
Voices from National Geographic. They have, it's really nice. It's for adults, but it works well. They also have, not doing like any merchandising for them, but there is one, they have like a whole series for TED Talks for teenagers called Perspectives. So they have pre-intermediate to advanced. It's really nice as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was basically like, and like role plays for today, games and activity, like games and vocabulary and practice. So like all the old, let's say, books that have great activities,
Yeah. And just
and like, yeah,
sorry, no, continue.
continue. Yeah, no, it's fine.
Just the other thing is, would you photocopy from those books, or would you kind of rewrite the activity out? Like I just felt, I suppose I was teaching last year and I felt sometimes they're like, oh geez, another photocopy, and it's a book, because that's what they're doing from September to June. They are studying from a book because that's either they're doing it as an extracurricular activity in their country, say Spain or whatever, or they're doing it in the classroom in their school. So what did you about kind of getting over that? Because again, they're teenagers, they're going to have an opinion on everything.
Yeah. I think it was a mix, because I think like a lot of activities, if you have the chance, you could just project it to them.
Okay.
And like, but from first, like if it's a game or something that they need a slips of paper or something, then you would have to print it. Like reading, I find it easier for the students to have the printed form.
Yeah.
But in that case, I think it was like more up to the teacher to decide, like, oh, I think this could work being projected. Because like I gave them all the materials, so like there's a drive with everything there. So I think then it's up to the teacher to decide, like with this group, they might need the physical copy. With this group, I can just project it. There was like lots of YouTube videos as well. So like there's, it's paper free. So
yeah.
because like, yeah, no, I think the part of not having a course book, you end up relying on a lot of like paper in a way, because like you need the other sources.
Yes.
So that was like the downside to it, but it's all like, again, it's manageable, I would say.
Yeah, no, we have the resources. It's just I guess just trying to manage it and make it a little bit more easier. Like at the end of the day, these are teachers who are coming in during the summer, so you have to, like, I know it's teenage, well, for me, this is my view on it now. They are teachers coming in during the summer, so you want to, some of them are only there for the pay, like, so you want to kind of keep them intrigued. It's like, okay, make it interesting for you, but also how are you going to make it interesting for the students that are coming, who are actually paying for the course to be there. So brilliant. Thank you so much for answering that. Thank you.
I think the thing is that also, I will answer the questions in the chat in 1 second. I think there's also the fact that with the market is changing a little bit. So like, especially with summer courses, we have lots of teachers who have the CELTA, but they're mostly like primary and secondary school teachers. So they are not used to like an ESL sort of environment. So they need to adapt. So that's why we also wanted to do something a bit more structured for them. And I was there to help, like I know the director of studies here in Dublin was also there to help, because I think like it's different, because when you're teaching like 40 teenagers in a secondary school, it's like the dynamics is different. So we also had to kind of like take that into consideration.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too as well.
Thank you. So in terms of cooking facilities, we did not have one in Cork, so that's why we decided to make like sandwiches. We bought all the stuff, so we, like all the, of course, ingredients. So that's why we decided to do just like sandwiches and wraps. And I would say like that's the best option, I would say, especially if you have younger students. So, it's kind of like accidents might happen when they're cooking. So I would keep it safe, especially with like things that are easier to make. It doesn't mean it's not as fun, of course, but it's, I think it's easier if you have the cooking facilities, even if it's a microwave or something that it makes it easier for them. It's great. But in Cork, unfortunately, we didn't have that, so we just had to do the like, sandwiches and wraps. In terms of competition, Well, I would say it's more about the tasks they would have in class. So if it was like a speaking, like, I don't know, uh grammar auction or something, that not grammar auction, but because they didn't study grammar, but like activities that that speaking activities or games, let's say, that they would play in class. So I think the competitive aspect was more related to that. But with the projects, they could also get very competitive. Especially, I remember like the cooking show, for example. There was, uh, I think, like a couple of competitors that they were like very sore losers. Like, oh, I don't agree with this because like it's rigged. Because like me and the other teacher, we were the judges, like like Master Chef judges. So we were like tasting everything. Some of them were very disgusting, to be honest. It was like a combination that was like, never want to have this in my life again. But yeah, like they would be very competitive because they teenagers, they want to have, they want to be the best, especially if it's a student that is very competitive. But well, I digress. In terms of the elements in the program, I would say like these, like the cooking show, the fashion show, like the TikTok could be a challenge, so you could vote for the best. I think we had like that as a guideline, so you could bring the competition side of it to the program as well. So again, I think it's what I tried to make was something adaptable. So the teachers would have the guidelines, but it was like it's an agreement. The teacher and the students decide what they want to do, whatever is feasible, whatever they can do in class. Because I think that works better when the students feel heard, when they feel like they are being listened to and their ideas are taken into account and they are deciding something, they learn a lot better. Any more questions?